have a strong bias toward listening. In fact, I would go this far. If you're talking to somebody who doesn't believe, the main thing to do is to say, I really need to know, I really want to know what your biggest problems are, you know, where the Christianity seems very uncredible to you. And you have to listen, and you really can't stop. It doesn't mean you can never say anything back or give any response at all, but you have to be in heavy listening mode until the other person says that you are articulating his or her objections better than they could. In other words, when you're able to articulate sympathetically and sharply their objections even better than they can do. They can say, you know, you were doing it, you know, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly how I feel. When that begins to happen, you can start to say, yeah, I see your point, but let's think about it like this, like this, like this. When you've risen to the level of disagreement, do you hear that? I use that as a metaphor because it takes a lot of work to really disagree with somebody, to the place where and if you do that, they're going to start doing that for you. When you begin to talk, if you've actually shown them over a period of time, who knows? I don't know. It depends on the culture. It depends on, by the way, men take more of this than women. I think it takes a lot longer for men to feel listened to than women do. I think men take, you may have to meet with men for quite a while before they start to say, you really do understand where I'm coming from. Then when you begin to give them some answers, they will probably follow your lead to some degree. They'll probably try to, just like you spent all this time getting in their shoes, coming to the place where you could say their beliefs pretty well, they might actually start trying to do the same thing. What you want them to do is try on Christianity, even if they don't completely believe it, like with the way you try on a coat, or the way a woman tries on a dress at a store, and you look in the mirror to see how you look in it. And generally what will happen is, if you've been sympathetic in listening and in expressing their problems to you, they'll start to be sympathetic in listening and to say, well, it would be like this, right? When that kind of thing happens, I'm not saying that it's a shoo-in, that definitely the person's coming to Christ, but I've seen, very often what I'll find is either a person comes to Christ then, or else the person goes into a long-term kind of incubation period in which they come to your church off and on, you keep up with them, and when something bad happens or something decisive happens in their lives, it might be 2 or 3 years later, sometimes because you had them all, it's almost like you put all this wood in the fireplace, but somehow it just never, the sparks don't go, and there's no ignition. But that's fine, that you keep up with them, and every so often they'll drop into church, or maybe they even come regularly, and then something happens, and because you put all the firewood in, which is trust of you, understanding of basically what the gospel is all about, sometimes years later, up goes the wood when there's a spark. So I would mainly say it's listening and articulating back to them better than they could do it themselves. That's your key.